Hi guys, so we're here today checking out Battlefleet 2. It's a game which is, as far as I can tell, been around for a few years, but only popped up on my radar with the release, I think yesterday, of VR support. So I thought we'd grab it, jump in, have a look. Probably won't focus too much on, kind of the gameplay, the mechanics of the game itself. Really more interested in the VR implementation. So here we are at the starting screen, just having a quick look at what we've got here. Little news scroller there with some social media links and whatnot, and the sort of the core menu options here. So like, there's not a heap of things in the way of options, particularly on sort of the graphical side. One thing I would like to see is a super sampling or a sort of anti-aliasing scaler. I don't sort of really like forcing that stuff through Steam VR, but I think this game would be able to drive a reasonably high multiplier and would benefit from it. So, as you can see here, there's actually a fair bit of detail on the ships, but then at a distance that sort of gets away from you pretty quickly. There's a few sort of play modes, unlocks. I'm going to come to that in a minute. So we've got a campaign, which is a kind of clever way of stringing together individual skirmishes. Quick battle, which we'll jump into and have a look in a minute, basically throws you right into it. And a custom battle, which is essentially a skirmish, but you can outfit your ships, sort of build your own fleet, edit the weapons and the captains of those ships, presumably for some benefit. There is a multiplayer functionality. Apparently this is all cross-platform, so it's not just people playing it in VR. You can play against the normies. And the unlocks. Now this one surprised me a bit because there's a lot of unlocking and it's all actually somewhat core to the gameplay. So as it is, I've only been mucking around with this for a couple of hours and haven't really unlocked a whole lot of them. So some of these require you to go through a whole campaign successfully. Others are just sort of level up or sink 5 submarines, that kind of thing. So we'll jump into a battle here. So you've got different maps you can choose and a whole lot of maps to unlock. Sort of regular difficulty. So here we are sort of in the map. This is, fully zoomed out. That kind of whole play area is about the size of my room. I can get fairly close to the edge if I was to sort of center it a little more, I think. I don't have a particularly large or a particularly small play space. And you can obviously manipulate the camera. So here we go with the 2 grip buttons. Get those controllers under the water. And there we go, things are much larger now. Moving around, you've got this is with the right controller, the grip button to drag the world, but at this scale it makes a lot more sense to teleport. So here we go, here's my fleet. Just pop over and have a look at the landscape. This one's fairly plain. This is sort of, water sits at about waist height. It's actually quite a cool cool sensation having this this little kind of battle arena in your living room. So here's one of the ships. We get up nice and close there. There's a lot of detail on these things for quite small models. I'd love to be able to zoom in just a little bit more to kind of appreciate some of that detail. So turning to the control mechanism, so you've got some zoom buttons there. There are some stats that'll pop up when we're actually playing. Some in-game options there. Fairly simple, and these are really and bring in some information about your ship there. So for each turn, a ship can move and it can attack. So the movement mechanism here, basically dial in a vector like so. Obviously there's limitations to the rate at which these things can turn. And off he goes. So look, we'll just jump forward to, there's a few sort of bit of strategic moving at the start of a round. Let's skip forward to a point where there's a little bit more action. Okay, so I've got a few ships moved into position here. Been a few shots exchanged already. I'm taking out this guy's bridge, so I think he's more or less done for. But yeah, it's probably a more interesting time to jump back in and have a look at how the game plays. Those ships are very cool. I'm just begging for them to be a little bit bigger so I can appreciate some of that detail. So let's have a bit of a look at the controls here. So this is attacking. These are the various weapons. This guy's pretty much had his Right. So here we are with a kind of a fresh turn with the USS Helena here. I'm going to maneuver a little bit before we open fire on these guys. So I actually quite like the control scheme here. It's the game itself is pretty intuitive. So you've got essentially like a mouse pointer here. Might actually just jump in and show you the 2D version of the game now, so you can kind of get a sense for the inspiration for all of this, and I guess how the developer's gone about translating his kind of window-based game into something which works in virtual reality. So this is the original sort of window-based version of the game, and as you can see here, essentially what they've done is taken the various interactions which you would normally be pointing and clicking at and using your mouse to interact with, all of those various graphics, buttons and sliders pop up over the ship that you're interacting with, and in virtual reality they've essentially taken those interfaces and attached them to your left hand. So yeah, all quite straightforward. quite intuitive. The kind of the art is still very much in picking a distance. It's a little bit like Worms in that regard in terms of dialing in some force, adjusting it accordingly. So let's line this guy up. Here we are with the blue line at 2000. Doesn't give a unit, so let's call it meters. It's probably something far more nautical, which it actually is. And maybe a little bit more. Let's let him have it. Torpedo was quite effective. So I think that's probably about it for his... Oh no, still got some life left in him. That's definitely for that ship. So enemies maneuvering here.
Yes, sir.
Alright, time for a little revenge over here. Yeah, I'd say maybe a little bit more than that. Got him. Yeah, that's not going to be much use, is it? Or that. And that, I believe, is a depth charge, which is of very little use against a frigate.
What are your orders?
That's a very good question. Well, sir, I think I'd like you to attack the ship. So again, I think that's around 1700 and something. Down he goes. So probably time to advance a little bit. So yeah, look, that's probably about it in terms of what I wanted to show you. You know, it's a cool, unique VR experience. Turning your living room into this sort of theatre of battle with these ships trying to blow the shit out of each other. You know, the 3D effect is really cool. Watching these shells kind of buzz under your chin on their arc over to their intended target is quite cool. There's a appropriate sense of scale. It is a sort of truly room scale, in that you can kind of walk around and interact with all of this stuff. Obviously the zoom helps in that regard. It's just like a big tabletop. I know the developers said that this is sort of a first pass VR implementation, so it'll be interesting to see where they take it. As I said at the start, my wish list would be some super sampling and maybe the ability to zoom in a little bit further. But yeah, look, I hope that was of some interest if you've been taking an interest in this game and wondering whether to jump in or not.